Good afternoon and warm revolutionary greetings from the South African Communist Party. Choosing Africa Day for this important deliberation is of much significance. The Organization of African Unity was formally founded on the 25th of May 1963 to better coordinate our struggles against colonialism. This day reminds us that African humanism, or Ubuntu, driven by the sentiment, I am what I am because of who we all are, necessitates that our freedom and prosperity is intricately linked to the freedom and prosperity of all the oppressed. Oppression and repression constitute the daily lives of the Palestinian people. But the tyranny witnessed between 10 and 21 May, in particular, has shocked the world. In 11 days, the Israeli regime slaughtered 248 Palestinians, including 66 children, wounded 1,900, and left tens of thousands displaced. The social and economic infrastructural damage inflicted on Gaza is estimated to exceed $100 million. As the South African Communist Party, we salute all Palestinians for the selfless, resilient, and united action against the violent extremism of apartheid Israel. We also extend our sincere condolences to the family and friends of those who had died, as well as to Palestinians in general. Your brave acts of self-defense and resistance enabled the exposure of the Israeli regime's aggression. The whole world witnessed the horror of their brutality, despite their deliberate efforts to block and counter it. The USA's projection of itself as the defender of human rights was also rattled, as their weapons were instrumental in enabling this military adventurism. Israeli forces spokesman Zilberman boldly announced that 80 fighter planes were used in the military operation in Gaza, including the F-35s produced by the USA and secondary partner Italy. We welcome the outrage expressed by the American people against the brutality against the Palestinians and the resolution tabled to block the recent $735 million arms deal between the USA and Israel. We also hear the Biden administration's offer to assist with the rebuilding of Gaza. A good start, however, would be to reverse the decision to declare Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and to remove the USA embassy. Furthermore, the USA should withdraw its troops from West Asia and lift all illegal sanctions imposed on the region and elsewhere in the world. In addition, the government of Israel must be held accountable for the war crime committed, particularly since its arrogance is unrelenting and arrest and harassment of Palestinians are continuing as we speak. The protests in the USA and across the world at large, as well as the persistent calls by many in the UN Security Council for an end to the Israeli aggression, are a direct result of the bold actions of the Palestinian people. We, as the SSCP, was among the many voices that called for increased extensive pressure on the Israeli regime to abandon its apartheid policies on Palestine, and we were physically present at many of the solidarity protests across South Africa and wherever else our members are located. The fundamental strategic shift in the growing international solidarity with the Palestinian struggle is cause for celebration. It is significant as it challenges the Israeli regime's propaganda tentacles, which have dominated every space until now. Israel's disinformation and charm offensive, as personally driven by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has also found roots in Africa, as the Netanyahu regime utilizes every means possible to dictate the narrative and try and turn around the negative perception of it on this continent. Netanyahu has leveraged the contacts that he has established as a former permanent representative to the United Nations, which includes some African heads of states, to attend regional summits like that of ECOWAS, and for bilateral visits to countries like Rwanda, Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Chad, and Mali in his capacity as the Prime Minister. In addition to using his personal influence, Netanyahu uses Mossad, which reports directly to his office, to ingratiate apartheid Israel on our continent in the guise of developmental and security cooperation and support. So extensive is the propaganda machinery that a dedicated ministry, the Ministry of Strategic Affairs and Public Diplomacy, has an annual budget that exceeds $30 million to counter our activities calling for sanctions and disinvestment. Of course, when persuasion fails, bribery becomes the preferred diplomatic tool. A case in point was the forcing of countries by the Trump administration to restore relations with Israel as a precondition to the lifting of sanctions. Given the amount of effort and money that the Israeli occupation forces put into propaganda, countering it and ensuring that the truth prevails will require that we, as as the progressive Palestinian solidarity movement in Africa, have absolute coordination and synchronization of our resources, programs, and messaging. Today's webinar contributes significantly to such coordination, and we thank all who made it possible. The SSCP stands in unconditional solidarity with the people of Palestine in the resilient fight against the tyranny of the Israeli apartheid regime. We support today's efforts and all other efforts across the world aimed at strengthening international solidarity, as well as advancing sustained activities in support of the oppressed Palestinian people. As we gather on this 25th day of May 2021, Africa Day, we honor all those who were martyred in this just call for a free Palestine. We vow to support an end to the prolonged occupation by always exposing and challenging the activities of apartheid Israel and its allies. And like our forebears who founded the Organization of African Unity, now rebirthed as the African Union, we affirm our commitment to participate in the better coordination of struggles against colonialism, neocolonialism, and imperialism, with a promise that freedom will result in the welfare and well-being not only of our continent's peoples, but also the people of Palestine and the world at large. Long live international solidarity. Long live.